Hey, this is Jamey from Stonemaier Games, and today I'm going to talk about a really unique trick-taking game called Tricktakers. Despite that fairly generic title, this is not a generic game at all. This is a trick-taking game where each player has a completely asymmetrical ability and really goal that they're trying to accomplish each round of the game. And that is the unique twist. So I'll talk about the actual asymmetry in a second, but the really cool twist, in my opinion, for this is that you aren't choosing an asymmetrical role or character for the entire game. Rather, you're choosing it for a single round. So in the we play over 3 rounds. In the first round of Trick Takers, each player chooses an asymmetric role. There are different ways of doing that. We drafted, so we had a bunch of them out on the table, and we just kind of picked one, and that was the one that we used for that round. And even better than that, I should have started with this. Even better than that, you get to look at your hand of 5 cards first. So it's on the surface, it's a fairly standard trick-taking game where you have a hand of cards from a fairly normal deck of cards. But you get to draw those cards first, and then you pick your role. So you can see the cards in your hand and be like, okay, this role is particularly good for this hand of cards, and then you can select that role. And then at the end of the round, you return your role, and you'll then select another one. And you could select the same one, depending on your hand of cards, or you could select another one. I think that is so cool. I really love asymmetry in games, but I love that you have the flexibility throughout the game where to choose a role based on your hand of cards, and that you aren't stuck with a specific role. Because when we were playing, we were just excited to try out a bunch of different roles, and I was glad I got to try 3 different roles each time we played. We played 2 games back to back within the same game. So I played a total of either 5 or 6 roles over the course of those 2 games. Just to experience what they were like. I thought that was really cool. Now, briefly, I'll talk about a few of the rules, a few of the roles. So there are all these roles that come with this game. There are a few expansion rules too that I don't think are in here yet. But for sake of example, like one very simple role is the king. And with the king, you're just pretty much trying to win as many hands as possible. That's basically what the king does. The berserker gets their own special hand of cards that are just inherently more powerful than all the other cards at the table. But the berserker doesn't want to win all 5 tricks. They only want to win 2, 3, or 4 tricks to get positive points. You can see that right there. I think my favorite, the gambler. The gambler is kind of one that's similar to other trick-taking games where you are betting or bidding on how many tricks you think you'll take in that round. I'll get to my favorite in a second. Yeah, there's so many unique roles here. I mean, like the resistance one is a character where you choose a specific trick, one of the 5 hands of cards that you're playing, and you declare it to be the special trick, and that's the only one that you score when you play. Oh, I gotta let Walter down here. Hey, bud. And then I'll get to 2 more here. The ruler. The ruler is based on the crew. So with the ruler, you have a set of goal cards or task cards, and you give those cards to other players. Like you might say, I don't want you to take any blue cards this round. And if that player doesn't accomplishes that goal, they don't take any blue cards, then they get some extra points and you get some extra points as well. And finally, my favorite is the collector. The collector is a role where you are trying to create one big poker hand of cards at the end of the round. So every trick that you win, you get those cards, and you can use those cards to create the poker trick. And you also get a special little token for tricks that you aren't winning. And on those tricks, you get to select one card, and you gain that card. You don't win the trick, you just gain that card, and you have that card to use to build that poker hand at the end of the round. Each of these is so clever and cool. I really enjoyed playing with them. And again, I like that I got to play with multiple roles throughout the game. Each game was 3 rounds, so I got to choose up to 3 different characters. I could have repeated characters if I wanted to. Really cool little game from Japan. I think it's fairly hard to get, unfortunately, but perhaps a US publisher will pick it up. But yeah, Tricktakers, if you love trick-taking games and you like asymmetry in games, I highly recommend checking out this game. If you think of any other games that do this, especially with trick-taking, I know there are plenty of games with asymmetry, but actually specifically, if you think of any other games that give you strong asymmetric elements that evolve during the game or that change, that revolve in and out during the game, so you get to play multiple asymmetrical elements within the course of a single game, let me know about that in the comments below. Thanks.